Okay, we are live. Hello, my name is Howard Mann, creator of Conscious Shifting, and welcome to Conscious Shifting. Before we get started, a quick warning and disclaimer. Conscious shifting and all known side effects will improve your physical, mental, and spiritual health while providing the ideal environment for spiritual awakening, helping you live the life of your dreams and influence the world in a positive way. So, if that's something that interests you, you can follow us on Facebook or subscribe on YouTube and then join us here Wednesday nights, 6 p.m. California time for Conscious Shifting. The best way to communicate with us is through our daily thought provoking posts during a live or during the replay of a live. Simply place your question in the comment box and we'll respond from a spiritual perspective. All right, so let's get going here. I see Kim and Cheryl, love, laugh, and be happy in the house. Welcome. Tonight's topic is, what is spiritual awareness? Let's everybody get in the proper frame of mind. Take a deep breath way down to your belly button and relax as you exhale. So inhale peace. And then exhale all tension, troublesome thoughts, stress, anxiety, depression, disease, etc. And one more time, big deep breath. And relax. All right, feeling better? Hi, Ray. Hi, Richard. Okay, so tonight's topic is, what is spiritual awareness? Spiritual awareness refers to our level of consciousness. Common levels of consciousness deal with physical existence. Spiritual awareness is superconsciousness, consciousness above or beyond common levels of consciousness. Common consciousness is what we have relative to our mind body. Superconsciousness is realization of who and what we are in actuality. So, what we have versus what we are. Spiritual awareness is consciousness beyond physical existence. So, before we get into the spiritual awareness, let's briefly discuss lower levels of awareness. And that contrast makes it, thank you, Cheryl, that contrast makes it easier to understand. Awesome. He's not feeling well. I just missed something there. Maybe this will help. If not, maybe the healing circle at the end. So, many creatures appear to operate almost exclusively from instinct. It's unlikely that they have any real consciousness. Microorganisms, insects, and reptiles, for example, probably don't spend their time contemplating reality. They hunt for food and reproduce without giving much thought to it. But as the size of the brain increases, so does the potential for expanded awareness. They go hand in hand. With increased brain size and awareness comes an increasing ability to form subconscious programming. Consequently, as stored information increases, we become more complex organisms. Further awareness brings the ego into play. The ego is a viewpoint of individuality. A sense of self develops. And as awareness continues to expand, we develop the ability to reason. Basic consciousness is the result. Basic consciousness consists of instinct, subconscious programming, awareness of self as ego, and potential for reason, as well as potential for rational thought. Hey, Chris. So, cats, dogs, dolphins, whales, apes, humans, they all exhibit basic consciousness. Still, it should be noted that there are varying degrees of awareness, ego, and reasoning ability. So, ego, moving up from instinct, ego is a necessary viewpoint. We could not function in the time space continuum without it. However, it also contributes to the illusion because ego allows us to perceive both time and space. It also creates the illusion of a false self, a self separate from others. For example, I'm over here while you're over there. And belief in this illusion locks us into the mind body. Hi, Kathy. How you doing? Now, humans appear to be exclusive in the ability to develop levels of awareness beyond basic consciousness. And here's where it starts to get really interesting. At higher levels of consciousness, we begin to question life in the universe. It usually starts out as an intellectual pursuit, but at some point, we begin to develop actual consciousness. Did you follow that? So everything up to this point is a lower level of awareness or a low level of consciousness, but not what I would consider actual consciousness. So again, at some point, we begin to develop actual consciousness, also known as spiritual consciousness. And this shift is huge. Spiritual consciousness is different. It's not dependent upon intelligence, nor does it involve imagination. It's not based upon thoughts. Spiritual consciousness is consciousness aware of itself. It's just an awareness. And it's aware of its self as the knower rather than the thinker. You see the difference? Now, this is getting a little out there, but think about that. Awareness of self as the knower rather than the thinker. Now, if you have any questions about any of this, ask them. Sometimes I get the feeling that people, you know, um, don't want to stop the live, but it's important because if you have a question where we're at, it's better to get it answered then than to move on. And if you have a question about something, chances are thousands of other people that potentially will see the live have the same question. So they'll benefit from it as well. And there's no stupid question. If you don't understand something or you don't quite grasp what it is I'm saying, or you don't think you understand what I intend, what I'm trying to say, then ask for clarification. Um, so again, spiritual consciousness is consciousness aware of itself. It's an understanding of existence beyond the ego, something not of this world. And when we understand that we exist as something other than the mind body, we begin to awaken. Everything up to that point is a lower level of consciousness, kind of a almost a dreamlike state where life's going on and things are happening and you think you're living life and participating and making decisions and all this stuff, but it's really just a dream created by the subconscious instincts and subconscious programs that are interpreting based on memories what your experience is, but it's not actual experience because it is based in memories. So that's the when I say the knower rather than the thinker, that's what I'm talking about. It's a knowing. It's not something you think. It's not an opinion. It's not based on anything. It's what you are. And this awakening is awakening to self-realization. So that's why I say we then begin to understand that we exist as something other than the mind body. we begin to awaken. We begin to spiritually evolve. Spiritual awakening is evidence of spiritual awareness. Kim says there are no dumb questions. All questions have relevance. Exactly. You don't understand, you don't understand, you know? And the only way to understand is to ask, you know? Uh, Chris says, I listened to a podcast today where a guy was saying that our imagination was actually God. The more he talked, the more I didn't resonate. After 10 minutes, I shut it off. Was hoping I would expand my knowledge, but it didn't resonate. Well, and it didn't resonate for a reason. You know, now there are people that will resonate with what he's talking about. And so if you picture spiritual evolution or spiritual awakening as a process, and picture it as it's not really a path that you follow, but you can visualize it as this journey down a path, and there's these stepping stones. And so if you're at a level of consciousness that's, you know, a step or two or more below what he was talking about, then it may resonate with you, and it may actually help you along your way. But if you've, and I know you have, if you've already, Chris, if you've already got past that point, then you're not going to resonate with it, because it's a limited view of things, and you already have a more expanded view of things, and you're looking to expand that even further, and a more limited view is not going to do that, so you don't resonate with it. It makes perfect sense. And there's people that, you know, they'll listen to this, and they may have the same reaction, and you know, it might be that it's so more likely when you start talking about spiritual awakening, um, people will either go, yeah, 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 I get that. Oh, yeah, I know that. I've always had that feeling. Or they'll at least say, oh, wow, I never thought of it like that. And then they kind of jump up in consciousness. The other reaction is that, oh, that sounds like a bunch of crap, you know, and that's probably because they're nowhere near um, a level that can make any sense of it. And so it just sounds like gobbledygook, you know. Everybody's journey is a little bit different, and you kind of have to meet people where they're at. But I'll tell you this: if it's a spiritual message, if it's actually spirit that's doing the talking, and the person who's communicating that message doesn't filter it too much, then spirit is multidimensional. So anybody that listens to that is going to get something out of it. I'll say that for spirit, you know, and if there's people that aren't getting anything out of it, then it's a really limited, probably something of the ego. Most of the time, that's what you're going to find. Kim says discerning what resonates is always key. You could hear it again 10 years and have a different perspective. That's true too. You never know. Hi Pippa, how you doing? Chris says, I think his view was more religious in nature. He claimed that imagination was Jesus Christ. I try, I try to take it, but yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. Um, spiritual consciousness has nothing to do with imagination or thinking or emotions or feeling or anything else. It's far beyond any of that. So I get exactly what you're saying. And I would say that Jesus was far above that. Jesus, if anything, was far above the level of consciousness that any of us hold. Um, and I doubt very seriously that, you know, he was imagining much. He was just in touch with who and what he was, and he taught that. And it was probably, if there was one person that ever lived on this planet that was spirit directly talking to people, it was Jesus Christ. And that is not religion. Religions have sprung up around that, but religions, remember, are based on rules and rituals and opinions, and that's all ego. Now, it can be a stepping stone. It brings people that are godless closer to God. But at some point, you have to go beyond the physical realm. All right, so we begin to awaken when we begin to understand that we exist as something beyond the mind body. Um, and there's a scientific basis. I know some of you have heard me say something along these lines before, but I like to mix science in where I can because it's a way of bridging to people that are like, well, I don't know about all this, if I can bring anything, history or mathematics or biology or chemistry or quantum physics into something, and there's confirmation in that, it helps some people bridge. So that's why I do it. I'm not a scientist. Most of it's above my head, but what I have read and understand of it, where it applies to spirituality, I like to use it. And for that reason. So there is a scientific basis for this, and it's called quantum physics. And in quantum physics, they deal with very small particles and their behavior. Now, the human body, for example, is made up of somewhere between 50 trillion and 100 trillion individual cells all working in harmony. Now, each cell is made up of molecules, and each molecule is made up of atoms. And if we break open an atom, there's no physical matter inside, only energy. And therefore, physical matter is not really solid. Physical matter actually exists within a much larger reality. And this larger reality is that the physical universe and everything in it is actually made of energy. This includes us. We are made of energy, and our physical reality exists within this much larger reality of energy. Hence the illusion. When we mistake what we're interpreting this energy to be as reality, we're buying into the illusion. When we mistake what we're experiencing, the props of our experience, as solid matter, we're buying into the illusion. If we assume permanency, see, another problem with reality as most people experience it or think about it is that there's these concrete things. There aren't. Everything in the physical world is always in a state of change. Again, it's an illusion. There's no permanency. It's just the way we perceive it is in this, like these snapshots in time, like a still picture, but it's not really like that. It's this fluid thing that's constantly changing. Chris says, and no judgment for what somebody else resonates with or believes. No, not at all. We just have to always listen to our intuition and soul for what's true for us. And therein, you're hitting on something, and that is that if you get good at listening to your intuition, if you still the body and the mind, and kind of remove as many of the distractions as you can, don't really pay too much attention to the thoughts and emotions. This is why meditation is so good. Things will just come to you. You'll just be aware of them. And that is spirit speaking to you. You want to know the stuff that I talk about that's not science or something, based in this world or an ego. I do it for contrast, but the rest of the stuff, when I say that it's spirit doing the talking, if I'm doing my job properly, I'm getting out of the way. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Is that it's just something that comes to you when you're not engaged in thoughts and opinions and emotions and ego and science and religion and all this other stuff. Not that there's necessarily there's a time and place for everything, but if you want to listen to spirit, then you need to be quiet, and you're not quiet when you're thinking or when you're talking, or when you're having opinions about everything. That's the ego. That's not spirit. Neither is buying into the illusion. One way you are is when you start believing that things are separate, that people are separate, that there's these different groups of people based on whatever. And it doesn't matter. You could group people in any kind of group you want. You see it all the time, political organizations, religious organizations. What sex are you? What sex do you, uh, what's the term for it now? Relate to? What. So it's any of this division, race, social status. When you start categorizing things, you're buying into the illusion. You're separating this one spirit into separate components. And what you're really doing is denying spirit. You're denying God. And so the only way to really experience God, the only way to really experience who and what you are, is to experience it. It's not something you think about. It's not something you feel. It's not something you have opinion about. It's not something you learn. It's not something you earn. It's what you are. And when you can connect to your higher self and allow that to come through by not getting in the way, then you're really onto something. Hi, Marlena. And that's where the no judgment comes in. It's like, the quote, judge not lest you be judged. Think of it this way. If we're all one spirit and you're judging somebody else, you're judging yourself because they're you. If there's only one spirit and we're all part of it, then you can't really hate. Look at it this way. You can't really hate somebody else without hating yourself, at least a part of you. Think about that one. The world would be really different if people just got that. And someday they will. But until then, no judgment, because you don't know what you don't know what you don't know. Hi, Marlena. Everything is energy. Whatever frequency you tune to, you will get that reality. Yeah, that's it. Reality is as we understand it, is actually a creation of our collective consciousness. And so as we rise in consciousness or tune into a higher frequency, as you say, then the reality we create will adjust accordingly, not before. You cannot create a higher reality based on the consciousness of a lower reality. The higher reality will exist in the exact moment that higher consciousness is manifested. It's one and the same. Mirror reflection, exactly. There you go. That's a good way to put it. Thank you, Chris. I try. I really do. I try real hard. Because I got an ego just like everybody else, and I'll mess it up if I let Howard get in the way. So I really try, before I start the live, just to get out of the way. And Spirit, what would you have me say? That's actually my whole life. What would you have me do? How would you have me see this situation? That's how I roll. If I'm going to think about something, then it's like I realize that I'm in my head, and so I ask, okay, how would you have me see this situation? How would you have me see this person? What would you have me say in this moment? What would you have me do in this moment? Everything's about that. And then what I'll tell you, what starts happening is what you would have previously described as miracles all the time, happening everywhere all the time. And you even learn to become accepting of what you would call judge the bad in the world, because you understand why it's happening and why it has to happen. It's a manifestation. And so that's just where people are at the moment. There's really nothing to judge. So you crack open an atom and all there is energy. So everything is energy. We perceive it different than that, but it's really just because we believe. We have these programs that we're imagining that we're seeing and hearing and touching and feeling and all this other stuff. And then, we base opinions on that. I mean, you can get so far removed from actual experience or actual reality. It's amazing. But in short, the known universe is everything that we can sense, detect, and measure, everything within our time space continuum, and things perceived from the viewpoint of the ego. So the thing is that before the birth of our universe, about 13.8 billion years ago, is what astrophysicists say, there was no time or space or matter because the universe had not come into existence yet. And so, what did exist? And that is really where science ends. That is really where religion ends. That is really where thinking ends. That is where all of it ends. But it doesn't mean that there's nothing. Science, for example, exists within the physical universe. It is bound by physical laws, things we can detect and measure. Beyond time, space, and matter, there's no science. There's no thoughts, at least not as defined by measurable science. There's only spiritual knowledge, spiritual consciousness, conscious energy, because there is this realm of non-form. It's although it's kind of weird, quantum physics is science, but they also understand that there's this realm of non-form. That energy, the same energy that exists in this universe, exists in this realm of non-form. If there's no matter, then there's no time, there's no space. So there just is what there is, and everything all exists at the same time, all in the same place. So again, there's just this one thing. Science kind of proves it, but they kind of back off. They don't want to get too woo woo, you know, um, but they're aware of it. Let's put it that way. Yes, destructive energy is the enemy, and that's really just low level consciousness. The evil that exists in the world is nothing more than spiritual unconsciousness, and this belief in the separation, and that then makes all the evil that exists not only possible, but it actually creates it. So, what is spiritual awareness? It's knowledge beyond physical existence. Knowledge not dependent upon intelligence nor thoughts as we commonly understand them. Spiritual awareness deals with who and what we are in essence, not form. In form, we're human. In essence, we're spirit. Albert Einstein, he worked on explaining physical existence. And consequently, he took science all the way to the cutting edge of physical reality. And at that edge of physical reality is the beginning of spiritual reality. All of physical reality, if there was 100 trillion universes, ours just being one of them, all of them are within spiritual reality. They're a subset of spiritual reality because it is spirit, conscious energy, that's manifesting as physical form. Now, energy in the wave crashing becomes energy in the particle. That's how science explains it. But in other words, energy in non-form becomes energy in form. So they're aware of these two realms and that the energy exists in both of them simultaneously, by the way. It's what quantum physics says. And that goes right along with what spiritual masters have said for, at least 5,000 years. But the thing is that there's really no separation between the two. And get a little weirder. they coexist. So, according to Einstein, energy cannot be created nor destroyed. Energy can only be transferred from one state to another. Thus, here is one way of looking at it. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed, yet everything is made of energy. Furthermore, something created our universe, right? So, this transfer of energy is the bridge between the physical and spiritual realm. And conscious energy or spirit is the intelligence that's directing that transfer. Chris says that Billy Carson and a couple of others have really come a long way in linking spirituality and quantum physics. Yeah, and I think that that's the future. Eventually, you got to go back in history. Originally there was just the Word of God, and it was kind of kept from the people. The high priests were the only ones that could have the Bible, could read the ancient languages, and they would instruct the masses in what it meant. And so they had this view, things like, oh, the earth is flat and the universe revolves around earth and this kind of stuff. And there were scientists in the church. Everybody pretty much worked for the church back then, but the scientists that were in the church, some of them started to realize things. They started to realize that what they'd been told scripture said wasn't so. But back in those days, they'd lop your head off or throw you in prison or something if you spoke out against the church. I mean, it was not just the religion, it was the law. But there was a guy, Nicholas Copernicus, and he was I think, an astrologist among other things, mathematician. He had a few sciences under his belt, working for the church, and he started noticing that the movement of the planets, and he figured out that actually the planets in our solar system were orbiting around the sun, and this kind of stuff. But he couldn't say anything about it. So what he did is he wrote a book, and on his deathbed, he released that book to the public. And once this information got out into the public, you couldn't really, put it back. And so that started the scientific revolution. So you had this extreme religious interpretation of reality, and then science got involved, and then people got just strictly science, and they denied that God even existed. And it became like this almost the same thing, but over on the scientific side. So the polar opposite. So you had this extreme interpretation by the religious community, and then you had this extreme interpretation by the scientific community. But now, I think what you're going to see possibly require further incarnations, but you're going to see the church and the scientific community come together as one, because they're going to realize that the truth is much bigger than both of them. And that each one, although they're good at what they do, are limited. And so if you really want to get at the truth, you have to move beyond those limitations. And that's where we're headed. Maybe some other night we'll get into that a little deeper. But spiritual awareness expands our view of ourselves, others, planet Earth, the universe, and everything in it. And as a result, our reality shifts. You see, just in that little story about back in the day when the church and their view was reality, and then the scientific community, no, we don't deal with fantasy, we deal with fact, and this is reality. And now what you're seeing is neither one of them's reality. And reality, as we rise in consciousness or gain deeper understanding and awareness, reality is shifting. not too many people think that the world is flat. Not too many people think that the universe revolves around Earth, that Earth is the center of the universe. And we could go on and on and on. I mean, reality is shifting as we collectively rise in consciousness. Exactly, Chris. And again, we don't know what we don't know until we do, and then we'll never be the same. Once we identify with our essence, which is where we're going, rather than the mind body, we evolve, spiritual evolution. This is the next step in the evolution of mankind, a spiritual awakening. And it's going to be a huge step. The thing is that this is a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings. We're just temporarily in the human condition, which kind of makes sense then, the term human being. The human part is the mind body. The being part is our spiritual essence. Our spiritual essence is immortal. We are a spiritual being human. The being human is the temporary part. The mind body will eventually expire, but spirit is immortal. Because again, it cannot be created nor destroyed. It always has been what it is. It always will be what it is. And all you can really say about it is. Jesus said, I am. That was it. Any more than that, and you actually remove yourself from the experience and put yourself into thinking. You just and thinking is just an opinion about the experience. It's not the experience. It is what it is. Exactly, Marlena. So now, why is spirit immortal? Because it's not part of the mind body. It's not part of the physical world. And this is sometimes difficult to understand because it's beyond thought. Well, wait a minute. How do you not think? Well, you don't. You have to consider your intellect, your intellectual process as a calculator that you take out when you need to analyze some information. And then when you're done, you put it away. So this is a whole different way to live. It's a whole different way to live. And it takes some time for people to get the hang of. But spiritual awareness is something that we have to experience to truly understand. We've got to step out of the dream and into our true essence, so to speak. And this is why we call it the awakening, because it's very much like you awaken from the dream and go, oh, wow, whew, that was just a dream. Well, it's kind of the same thing. When you begin to spiritually awaken, it's like, oh, wow. Reality was just what I thought was reality was just a dream. None of this is real. Well, and that's the closest to the truth that, you can really think. Now, again, the ego is a necessary viewpoint to operate in the physical world. You wouldn't be able to communicate. You couldn't function in time and space without it. But it's a dreamlike state, and it's a state identified with the mind body. And that's where we blew it. That was the fall from grace. When we descended into matter, rather than expressing ourselves as spiritual beings through a physical mind body into a physical realm, which was the point of creating all of this, we started identifying with the mind body as if that was that was us, and the physical world as if that was reality. And that actually created spiritual blocks to expressing ourselves in our full spiritual essence, which was the whole point of coming here. So the ego, I mean, it's necessary, but when you identify with it, it's insanity. And look at the world. I mean, just take a look around, turn on the news. I mean, go down the street, go downtown, just look at what goes on. It's crazy. But it's kind of like, there's these varying stages of consciousness, and The ego's really kind of reptilian. I mean, I'm not trying to, you know, insult anybody, but that's just the reality of it. The ego is a very primitive part of the brain, and it's not even up to common consciousness, which is at least the ability to be present and realize that the thoughts and emotions are coming from a deeper part of the brain. They're programs, you know, but that still isn't spiritual awareness. It's still not making that jump to this physical body isn't who I am. It's just what I happen to be temporarily in at the moment. Kind of like, you know, a good metaphor would be, I like to say, you know, if you're going to go down to the market to buy some ice cream, you go get in your car and you drive down there. The car is the vehicle that you use to travel about. It's not who you are. Well, think of the mind body as the same way, along with the thoughts and emotions. And you'll that kind of puts it into perspective. And it's like, whoa, okay. Okay. Marlena says you are just the observer watching your thoughts and feelings because they are not real. No, that's your imagination and your subconscious programs, your memories. Interpreting this, if you use the intellect and you know you're to interpret this experience, then they aren't real because they're based on memories and experiences of the past, and you're trying to relate to the present moment through your memories and experiences of the past. That's not really experiencing anything. It's just reliving memories and kind of modifying them a little bit. It's a whole different thing. That's why I say the knower, not the thinker. The observer. Exactly. So it's easy to identify with the mind body because that's what you find yourself in at the moment, but it's not who you truly are. And that's the thing. We awaken to actual consciousness, spirit. Spirit being not Casper the ghost spirit, but this consciousness that exists in a realm of non-form, in a realm where there's no time, no matter, no space. It's just this consciousness that we're all a part of. This ball of energy, intelligent energy, conscious energy. So, and that's why we're immortal, because we have the potential to rise into spiritual awareness or spiritual consciousness or higher consciousness. And so we must be that, or we wouldn't be able to rise into that. And then, since that exists in a place where there's no time, then there's no beginning or end, which is exactly what eternal means, or an immortal being. Not that the mind body is going to live forever, but the spirit was never born, so it's not going to die. It is what it is. We're back to that. So in the quiet stillness of meditation, reality reveals itself. The ultimate answers are found within. We have knowledge of it because we are part of it. Individualized parts of it, perhaps. At least that's the way it appears when you're in the human condition. But we simply need to wake up from our dream state. The answers are found by allowing our innate knowledge to come forth. Spiritual awareness is experience and understanding of our true essence. In essence, we are individual streams of consciousness emanating from a common source, but ultimately we're one. So you could think of it as, I like to use this metaphor. There's the sun up in the sky. You look up and there's this ball of energy, and there's all these rays of sunshine shooting out in all directions, but they're emanating from the sun. They're part of the sun. all of them put together are the sun. They're not separate from the sun, but they're somewhat individualized in that they're expanding out in all directions. But again, they're emanating from this one source. They're part of this source. They're never not part of it. They just kind of shoot out. Now, if you understand that a ray of sunshine is to the sun what a soul is to God, then it'll really help with starting to rise into spiritual awareness. But understand that ultimately we're one. So just keep that kind of tucked down in your noggin, and you'll be amazed at how often you get triggered and sucked into ego, reacting to people, reacting to events in the world, making judgments, who's right, who's wrong, um, expressing fear or hatred or anger. Those are all low level stuff, and it all deals with this idea of separation. Um, it without that belief in separation, none of that would happen. That all of that nonsense would stop, and at some point it will. So you'll get away from these things like poverty and starvation and warfare. They won't exist in the future. At some point, we probably still have plenty of that to come, but it's just the way the world is right now. It's pretty dark in a lot of ways. But that is the process of moving into the light. These things that are going on and what's going to go on, which we will talk about in coming lives, but these things that are going to happen are all of this stuff starting to rise to the surface. The shift is coming. It's going to happen. But you have to move through all of this stuff to get there. And since this reality is a manifestation of our collective consciousness, we're all in it together. It's not like, one of us can, become enlightened and just go, see all y'all later. It doesn't work that way, because see all y'all is like, we're one. So no one's getting out of here until everybody gets out of here. And it's this coming back into oneness. But that's kind of a, we'll get into that some other time. That's gonna take another hour at least to go down that path. All right. So hi Anna, how you doing? Chris, question. Why is it so hard for us to completely grasp that we are actually souls that never die, even though we know it? Because we've been conditioned to believe it. We've been brainwashed. We've been bombarded for thousands of years, and these beliefs have been handed down from generation to generation, and you absorb them while you're in the womb, and you're born into the world, and for the first 7 years of life, you just download everything without question. And so before you even start to develop a sense of self, you've already been conditioned to believe certain things, and almost all of it on a subconscious level. So that's part of it too, that you're not even really aware of it. You can say, oh, that makes perfect sense. If we have this consciousness, and this consciousness obviously is not part of the physical realm, then it must be eternal, because this other realm, there's no time. That makes perfect sense. I understand that. Yeah, but do you believe it? And the problem is we've been so brainwashed into believing such nonsense that even when we try to accept a higher reality, our beliefs are running interference. And so since most of our manifesting is done at the subconscious level, what we're actually creating is based on that. And until we go in and do all this inner work, and until we align our divine self with our heart center and our, like, in fact, this next book, I kind of get into that at the end of the book, but it's going to be released real soon here, probably May. Anyway, it's you have like your soul consciousness. That's your connection to the spiritual realm. You have your what I call the heart consciousness or the mind consciousness, and then you have your body consciousness. So your body consciousness is your all of your beliefs, everything that has to do with your mind body, everything that has to do with physical life, family, friends, sex, careers, you name it, thoughts, emotions, all of it in body consciousness. Mind consciousness is that body consciousness is able to rise up into the mind consciousness, and the soul consciousness, your connection to your higher self, your soul, is able to come down into mind consciousness, and then you have a decision to make. But you're only really conscious of one thing at a time. The rest of it is done on a subconscious level. So what I'm saying is that your body consciousness is manifesting all of this. We are collectively. And only when we align the soul consciousness with the mind consciousness and the body consciousness so that they're all in perfect alignment and there's no difference will we manifest heaven on earth. You see how that works? Because everything will be in alignment. So the divine knowledge will flow down in the mind. And then when we identify with that, that will flow down into the body consciousness, which affects the energetic field around us, which is what's doing the manifesting. And then collectively, we're creating this reality. So when that's being done from a divine source, you can imagine what the world is going to be like. Right now, it's all ego. And that's the world we're living in. And so that's actually a really good question because you can kind of understand all this and still go, but why is my life still like this? Because your subconscious programming is manifesting it. And because we've been so conditioned to believe this stuff, so brainwashed, and you're ridiculed, you're attacked if you dare question the status quo. You can talk to plenty of spiritual teachers of the past. I mean, we don't hang people on the cross anymore, but we annihilate them, reputation wise, and they get attacked from all sorts. But you have a choice. You you hold the light or you don't. And when enough people are holding the light and helping other people, holding that space, that presence, and allowing other people to come into it, when enough people are doing that, you're going to start seeing the shift really start happening. Right now, there's a little bit of it going on, but it's predominantly a world of ego's creation, and there's a lot of evil that is happening because of it. Good. All right, let's move on to a healing circle. And let me get this banner up here. And we'll do something with this. There we go. All right. So everybody gather around, form a circle, join hands. Gently close your eyes and your mouths, breathing through your nose down to an area just below the belly button. And then exhale back out through the nose. So nice deep breath way down. And then exhale tension. Just let it go out with the breath. And inhale peace. And exhale all stress, troublesome thoughts, anxiety, disease, etc. Inhale peace. And exhale tension. Just completely let go. All right, now continue breathing on your own. But as you do, follow your breath inward. Just follow the breath down into your body. And then what do you become aware of? Now, expand that awareness throughout your entire body. Expand your awareness beyond your body. So now you're starting to leak out in all directions, like the light from the sun. Maybe a few inches at first. See if you can expand out further, maybe a foot beyond your body in all directions. And when we see or when we develop awareness beyond, there are more possibilities, right? If your energy, if your awareness was at one little spot you first focused on, that had some possibilities. When that was expanded to awareness of your whole body, there was more possibilities. And now expanding beyond your body, there's even more possibilities. Now you're not even bound by your body. Your consciousness can extend beyond your body. You're not bound by your body. We say, let's get in a healing circle and join hands, and we can feel each other's energy. How is that possible? Because our consciousness is creating that circle. It's not that people are sitting in the same room with us, but consciously we're together and we can feel that energy. I know a lot of you do. You can feel it in your hands moving through you right now as I'm speaking of it. That's what that is. So beyond, you know, the limited possibilities of lower consciousness, we can expand into higher consciousness and other potential and other possibilities. So expand this consciousness out into the complete healing circle. Now imagine what that would be. Where are all of us located and yet we're holding a circle? How big would that circle be? Expand your consciousness out so that everything is within consciousness. Now, the awareness of the healing circle is beyond our houses. The awareness of the healing circle is beyond our neighborhoods. The awareness of the healing circle is beyond our cities. The awareness of the healing circle is beyond our states. The awareness of the healing circle is beyond our countries. Some people involved in the live aren't even in the United States. Now, in actuality, the awareness of the healing circle is beyond our world. The awareness of the healing circle is beyond the solar system. The awareness of the healing circle is beyond our galaxy. The awareness of our healing circle is beyond our universe. Now, our universe has been expanding for 13.8 billion years. The universe is still expanding. But we are eternal consciousness. We are awareness. We were aware before the universe came into existence. We will be aware after the universe ceases to exist. We are aware of all that has been, all that is, and all that will be, because we are eternal awareness. We are everywhere and always. Let's just sit with that for about a minute and then we'll continue. Okay. So, how is that experience? And we'll close by introducing one more thing into it because some of you may have your thoughts going, whoa, wait a minute, this is getting to be a bit much. I could feel the energy in my hands of the healing circle, but now this whole business about being before and after the universe. There was a spiritual master who walked the planet 2,000 years ago. His name was Jesus. And he said, I will be with you until the end of time. In this consciousness, he is with us because we are one. That's what he meant. He tried to teach people to love one another because we are all just one. We're not separate creatures that are pitted against each other, fighting for survival. That's not it at all. That's evil, and that's man-made. The spiritual truth is that we're one. So let's project that out into the entire universe for all beings, wherever they are. And so it is. All right, slowly open your eyes. That was a bit deep, huh? How did that feel? uh, uh, Hi, Sue. Sue's University of Life in the house. There you go, Pippa. Energy never dies. It only changes form. And she's witnessed that. Kim's reminding everybody to drink a glass of water when you do energy work. You want to stay hydrated. Energy flows much better in a hydrated system. You kind of get imbalanced and blockages and constrictions and things when you don't. And that can cause you some problems. All right. I don't see any other questions. So with that, let's call it a night. I honor the God within you. And remember, until the next time, the only way to bring about the greater good is to be the greater good. Good night.